Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Rosie, and today on my channel, this is going to be a bit different. It's just going to be a talking, quick sound bite, but I think this is really kind of important, and it's going to be an analogy that I used in terms of explaining perspective, multidimensionality, and something that you can use yourself. Sometimes I find it a good analogy in order to keep yourself grounded in terms of, not going madly into the ego, because that can happen. Like when people start to open up to spiritual conscious awakening, they sometimes you start to think, oh my god, I'm amazing, I'm seeing all of this and I'm doing all of this, and it's like, wait, we're getting off track here. So I think it's kind of good just for ourselves, just to remind ourselves to keep grounded. And I think it's also just a good little analogy in order to kind of give a visual description of kind of what happens, in terms of as your consciousness or as your awareness starts to grow. I think this is a good analogy in my opinion. Well, I would say that because I'm making a video. In my opinion, it's a good analogy in terms of like explaining very basic, like sort of like how it multidimensionality from like this perspective, or how it looks and stuff like that. It's one that I think that will stop you getting into arguments or debates about, this is right or that's right, or this is wrong or that's wrong. Like if you're talking to somebody about things that they're like, no, that doesn't exist, or no, that's not right, or this, and you believe that it is because you experience that in your own awareness, there's a tendency, you'll be just start arguing your case and being like, yes, it does, and it's because of and you're wrong, and you don't understand because of blah, blah, blah. Right? That's how things start to go left, right? So it stops things like that happening. I swear that's probably why like people become so zen, because they just kind of like see the bigger picture sometimes. But anyway, that's getting left. So it's great for that. So what it is, let me just get into it. It is what I call it. I'm going to call it. It's the ladder analogy. All right, the ladder analogy. And this is the example that I gave when I was talking about it. So it's like, imagine if you're standing there and you're standing next to a friend, all right, and you're both on the ground, you're both talking about something, and there's a ladder propped up right there against a building, and you jump onto the ladder, all right. So the ladder is consciousness, okay, and you're like, I'm going up, I'm going to go up and see, all right, I'm going to go up. So you go up the ladder, you climb, you're halfway up, all right, you've peeked over the roof of whatever building, you're kind of gone a bit high now, and over the roof you're looking into the vista, and you're like, oh my god, there's a frigging neighbouring farm over there, there's a farm, oh my god, look, there's a farm, I didn't know there was a farm there, I've never seen that farm. And you're just like, wow, that is amazing. And so you look back down and you're like, hey, there is a farm over there. And your friend on the ground is like, no, there's not. And you're like, what? You screw up your eyes and you're looking down at them going like, what do you mean no, there's not? I'm looking at it right now. And you're looking at the farm and you're like, there is a farm out here. Person down there's no, it's not. Stop being dumb. There's no farm. There's no farm over there. That doesn't exist. There's nothing. And you're like, yes, it is. I'm looking at it. Yes, there is. Right, so it kind of goes back and forth like that, right? And then you might climb a little bit higher, and then you see some more mountains in the back. And now you're starting to see like little animals. You might see a few little sheep. You might see, what could be, what else could be there? Cute little, see some ducks, all right, or some little like elephants. I don't even know. This is the most weird place on earth, right? Because it's got ducks, elephants, and I was going to say zebras all in the same place, like all of these animals that don't even belong together in terms of geographical business. But you're seeing those now. You're like, whoa, it's so amazing. Look at all of those things. You're just like, I've never seen. You're all mind blown and you're just like, wow, this is amazing. And you cool down and you're saying again, oh my God, there is more. There are animals that are striped black and white. You will not believe this. Look at this, is amazing. Now the person down there is telling you, you've lost your goddamn mind. They're like, there's absolutely no such thing. What are you talking about? This is ridiculous. Get down here. You're talking rubbish. All right, basically. And you're like, I'm not, I can see it. This is my experience. I'm looking at it. Nothing you can tell me is going to make me believe that I'm not seeing this, because I'm looking at it with my physical eyes. I'm experiencing it with my feelings. I'm experiencing it with my eyes. I'm sensing it. I'm breathing it. I'm just like, it just is. It just is. all right? There's no way you can say anything else, so you climb back down the ladder, you know what I mean? Now at first you might be annoyed because you're like, how can you not see this? How can you not? But like, I can see it. Don't tell me. Like, you might be annoyed. But then eventually you're like, hang on a minute. Wait. Okay. These are facts. I'm not wrong, but they're not wrong either. Okay. They also are not wrong in believing that the farm doesn't exist. And I am not wrong in believing the farm does exist. Why? Because it all comes down to a matter of perspective and awareness. Because in the person who is on the ground, standing by the ladder, the foot of the ladder, in their reality, there is no farm. Because you believe what you perceive and you perceive what you believe. So if you've never seen the farm that's on the other side of the building, it does not exist in your reality. So that person is exactly right when they say, no, there's no farm because it does not exist. But then you also, climbing the ladder, are looking and seeing it. And you are right, because in your reality, it does exist because you're experiencing it yourself. So this goes to show that nobody is wrong, which is why I always think it's a bit like, it just feels all a bit big egos bumping or whatever when people start to say like, you know, I'm more enlightened than you and you're wrong and this and this and this and this, because it's like ultimately, all right, you're both correct. And that's why it is important in terms of perception. And that's why I said this is like a good little example I gave in terms of like an analogy, in terms of multidimensionality, because multidimensionality and stuff like that, a lot of it is based on perspective. You know, like there's choice, you know, perspective. That's what we are. We're co-creators. So we have choice and we have different, and the choices that you make are ultimately based on your perception of your reality at the time. And your reality at the time is based on your thoughts, which is there in turn based on your inner beliefs. Okay, so it's that long thread. So perspective. So it's almost like I'm imagining it's like, you know, when you're holding a cube and you can see it rotating and you're seeing all the different facets of this cube. But if you're looking at it from the front, you're seeing that way. But, you know, if you go around the side, you're seeing, well, there's another facet to this cube. There's another facet to this cube as well on the other side. And it all depends on where you're standing and how you're viewing the cube, very much like on the ladder, what you're going to experience. All right. So I just thought I'd give you that analogy because I find that's quite helpful in order to, you know, explain your multidimensionality sometimes and how it can work and to understand. And it helps in terms of like, you know, I should do maybe a video on that as well. Like when you kind of like, if you're this way inclined, so to speak, it can be difficult sometimes when maybe you're around people or family that, you know, they don't share your beliefs in that respect. All right. And you might have a tendency to feel like, you know, isolated or angry, or you're like, you know, you might be like upset, or you're like, oh, why don't they understand? Or they won't, there's nobody, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like feeling that you're kind of alone. You can't really talk about it and stuff. But if you kind of think about the analogy like that I just said, it's very calming because you realize it's all right. It's okay for people to not be on the same wavelength at that same point. You know, you're not wrong and I'm not wrong in this respect. You know, it's okay. And this is why you cannot, with force, make somebody believe what you believe or try to convince them utterly. The only time you can convince somebody, if you were so to go down that path, right, is if you bring them physical evidence or you bring them an experience, okay, that they can therefore now go, oh, okay, yeah. But that's not you convincing them. The experience itself means that now they were aware and have seen for themselves, therefore experienced for themselves something different. So now they're believing. So ultimately, you still cannot convince somebody in that sense. They have to experience it in a way, in whatever sense, you know, whether it be through sight, sound, touch, smell, you know, anything. And that's another reason why it's like concentrate on yourself and what's, you know, within you. And then you will experience that your reality. And if when they're ready to experience something different, they will experience something different if they want to. And that kind of makes it easier to kind of like be a bit more cohesive, because you realize you're not fighting a losing battle. You shouldn't be fighting anyway, you know, in that respect. You keep your beliefs are your beliefs. You're not trying to push it on anybody else. But but it makes everything just like smoother, and it makes it better in your head as well. Like if you're, like I said, you're dealing with, you know, maybe feeling like a bit of a lone sheep, you know. I maybe should do a video on that, because it'd be very interesting, you know, how people cope in these when you're kind of like, you've got either specific abilities, or whether you're kind of like life, you know, and people around you are not. So if you'd like to talk about that, I'll do a video about that as well, because it's not always about just like what was all of this like cool stuff, air quotes, you know. It is all about, you know, the mechanics of the reality and of how we feel as well is very important, because that is all, because it's our self-concept is so important in how we experience things as well. So feeling good about ourselves in that way is like really important, or that's what I feel anyway. So yeah, that's my little video there. So guys, leave your feedback. I'd love to know, and I'll speak to you in my next video. All right, I'm sending triple kisses. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you.